welcome everyone to Coffee with a Codex. My name is Dot Porter, and I'm a curator here in the Schoenberg Institute for Manuscript Studies in the Kislak Center for Special Collections, Rare Books and Manuscripts in the University of Pennsylvania Libraries. Once a week, Thursdays at noon Eastern Time, I take a book off the shelf and we just do an informal 30-minute show and tell. I have access. I don't always have knowledge, but I have the books. So we're just going to look through it. We're going to talk about the content. Today, as I mentioned, Kelly Tuttle is here. She cataloged or did a lot of cataloging work during the Manuscripts of the Muslim World project, where we digitized our Islamic manuscripts and also manuscripts from other institutions. So she is incredibly knowledgeable and will pop in with information when I don't know it. As is often the case, I am not an expert on either the content or the language of this book. So this is a book that is in Arabic, which I do not read, and it's about astronomy, which I don't know a huge amount about, but I've done a little research, and I think this is going to be fun. So if you have questions as we go along, please type them in the chat. Kelly can answer questions. Amy Hutchins, who is the manuscripts cataloging librarian here, and she knows a whole lot about manuscripts, can also help out. And if this is your first time here, welcome. If it is not, welcome back. It's always great to see familiar faces and new faces, or not faces, but little names in the chat. So this book is, it is a 13th century copy of a collection of astronomical treatises that, as I mentioned, are focused on the Astrolabe. It was written in, do we know where it was written? It doesn't say in the record, so I can't say where it was written. But the binding, I don't know if I believe this. The binding, it says it's 13th century leather. It is blind stamped here. It's quite cracked, but you can still see the stamping here and around the edges. But the flap here has been replaced. So this is a sort of typical Islamic hit binding with this flap. I love this little flap because it basically it's protective, right? It protects the foredge and makes it almost like a little box that you carry the book around. So let's open it up and take a look. There are a lot of little notes we'll see as we open up the first page. And I think that these are sort of ownership information.
I can
Kelly,
talk about these for a second. Yeah.
Yeah.
So right in the middle, there's a pretty long note that has kind of a list below it. So that's actually a Vox statement. So somebody gave this book as a pious endowment, and then it's dated 1292, which is like 1875 or so. And then if you look at the list, all of those dates are a little bit later, like the same year, and then just following on from that year. Oh, so a pious endowment is like when somebody donates something to a public place. Or they build a building for the public use, something like that. So books sometimes get donated to schools or mosques or things like that for people to use. And this one, I don't know where it was donated to. I haven't looked at it closely enough. But I like this because this list is actually people who then read it and studied with it. So you can see that there's the same word appearing at the front of every one of those things almost. It says Mulahaza. So people are looking at it and they put the date that they looked at it. So like once it gets donated, it's then used by people who are studying with it in the 19th century.
So it's kind of functioning like almost like a library, like the old-fashioned library cards where you used to have the card in the back, and when you checked it out, they would write down who checked it out and the date. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And then these other notes and stamps are people who owned it. And then there are other little just things that people write that aren't ownership statements. They're just like stuff that people write in books.
People like to write in their books. They weren't shy about it. There we go. Cool. Yeah, so this was definitely a book that was used a lot. So a couple of, because we don't always look at a lot of Arabic books here. So Arabic reads from right to left. So that's why we're open the book on this side, because the language actually reads from right to left. And although it's quite early, right? I said it was 13th century. It is written on paper, which you don't see until later in the West. But paper was the material that was used for Codex books in the Middle East quite early. I think they also sometimes used parchment, but paper was much more common. So immediately we start seeing the sort of math of it all, right? So we have tables. You're going to see a lot of tables and diagrams as we kind of move through this book. So it is a collection of that looks really bright to me. Does that look bright to you? Is it kind of hard to see the text? Okay, Amy's nodding her head. All right, I'm gonna go turn the lights down and see if that helps. Come on. You're so slow. Maybe that'll that make a difference at all. The lights are not cooperating. Is that a little better? Okay. I might try again if it keeps looking like this. I think it's because the paper is actually shiny because of the way that it's made. The last step of making the paper is they burnish it, which makes it shiny, but that also means that it's reflective to light, which can make it look weird in the camera. So I apologize for that. So this is the first. Actually, I have some supplemental information, so I'm going to read from this. So the first text is really the main part of this, because there's 86 leaves in this text, and 67 of them are this. Let me see. It's a. No, I can't. Come on. It's a treatise on the Astrolabe by Al-Biruni, who lived in the 10th into the 11th century and was a remarkable scholar in where did he live? I'm not sure where he lived. Maybe Iran. I think he was Persian, and he wrote 146 books, not all of which survive, but he wrote a lot and a lot of different topics, but he wrote a lot on astronomy. And he wrote this text or treatise about the astrolabe and using the astrolabe. So here is our first astrolabe diagram. Okay, and now we have to take a step back and say, okay, well, what is an astrolabe? And I included in the links a PDF to this called Make Your Own Model Astrolabe. They sound kind of magical, actually. So they were these circular, as you can see, circular. They were usually made, I think, with like brass. They were made of metal. And they were plates that you would place on top of each other and kind of move around. And you could select dates. And there's zodiac information. And you could do all kinds of things with it. But amongst the things that you could do is you could determine the height of objects from the horizon. So how high are things like mountains or buildings? You could also look at the placement of the stars. So it was very much about the stars. So we have to remember that and the astrolabe was actually first conceived in ancient Greece. So the concept of it was ancient Greece, but the first ones I think weren't made into really in the Middle East in the 8th or 9th century, right? So there was this idea behind them, and then they didn't start getting made until much later. but it was a way that you could look at the sky and determine all kinds of things that might be important to you about the placement of the stars, about when is the sun going to rise, when is the sun going to set, all of these things. And it's just this one object. You did have to have a piece that was specific to where you are, your latitude, because the sky, it all depends on what you're seeing in the sky when you look up, and that's going to be different whether you're standing, if you're in Spain, it's going to look different than if you're in England or somewhere else. And although we're talking about this text written by this person in the probably in the late 10th, early 11th centuries, and this copy, mid 13th century, astrolabes were used all over the world, or at least they were used in the Middle East and Europe, up until really the 17th century, when other kinds of things like the sextant and even the telescope, like these things started to be used instead. But they were used for a very long time. And so that's the basic. So I will show you on the model astrolabe thing. Here's the kind of things that we'll see. And we'll see as we go through the book what we see here. So you can see the dates going around, because the sky is moving above you. You have to think the sky is moving. And so we have the dates. And there's also the zodiac signs that correspond with the months. And then numbers around the edge, which I don't know what that means. And so that's one side. And this is called the mother. So this is the base of it. And this is one side. And then the other side of the mother looks like that there. And I'm thinking that this is essentially the back. So what we're seeing here is kind of the back, because it's got all of these sections with that, and then the zodiac. I don't know, Kelly, if you can say that these are the zodiac signs written out, if I'm right, or if I'm wrong, but that's what it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like it. I'm just gonna look at the Calenda image for a second.
Yeah. Yes, it has been. If you follow the link, you'll see that the images have been digitized, so they're much bigger. I can also zoom in so we can get a little bit of a better look there. So this is sort of showing that part of that, which is pretty neat. So we can keep, and then this is another part of the astrolabe. Which I can't remember what it's called, but it's another functional part sort of sitting out here. All right. And we'll keep going. Here's more. I'm going to assume, right, so all of these these are going to be instructions for using different parts of the astrolabe to do various things, like measuring the horizon line and other things. Charts here.
A lot of it is for like rising and setting of planets, and formulae for doing different things.
Yeah, I think it was used a lot for sort of determining when things would happen, when planets would be at different, at various points in the sky, which would be regular, right? Because the planets they didn't conceive of it this way, but the planets have their regular orbits, and so if you can measure the orbits, they would be fine. Of course, at this time, they thought of the cosmos in a very different way. So they thought the Earth was in the center, and then there's a sphere kind of surrounding it, and that the stars sit in the sphere, because the stars don't move, right? We move, and so the stars all move like this. And then you have the planets, which are doing kind of their own thing. And so these are the kinds of things that they were measuring. And so that's sort of how they were thinking about it. And I see that there's actually a lot happening in the chat, and I just totally missed that. So Sorry about that. Um, so we have a question about why the diagrams are red. I would assume it's just so they stand out from the page, like an aesthetic thing. But Kelly, is there any other reason why they would be using red
Um,
ink?
no, I mean they are frequently read in science books. I think it's just to help, yeah, to help you see them.
Hmm.
They're not always red. Some are just the same ink color that the text is in, but I think it
Hmm.
just looks nice, and somebody thought it looked nice.
Yeah, yeah, and there's also here there's rubrics, like the text. Some of the text is written in red, so it seems like it's
Yeah,
just
that's a
standing
chapter
out.
heading. Yeah,
Yeah,
those are all sort of
seems
chapter
so.
headings. Like now we're going to do this.
Yeah.
I also saw somebody said that there was marginalia in a different color. Most of that is correcting something or saying that something is correct, kind of like confirming something that you see in the text.
Hmm. Yeah, and is that a later
Yeah,
hand
it
or
looks
is
like a
it?
different, yeah, it looks like a different writer. So, and a
Okay.
different color.
Yeah. So that's great because it's like people interacting with this book, as we know that people read the book, right? Because there's a list of people in the front uh, that that did, and that was quite late, right? You said 18 something for the.
Yeah, so between when this was written and that, a lot of other people looked at this
Hmm.
book.
Right. So
So,
that's not everyone who ever, that was only since it was put in that library.
yeah,
Um,
so
yeah. Yeah. So we'll keep going. So all of this is Alberuni's um, one. And some of them, I love this, like a lot of the diagrams are what I think of as like planned. Like whoever made this was like, there will be something here. So they left space for it. And then we have these guys who are kind of off in the corner where maybe there just wasn't space or maybe they decided later I mean, I don't think this was added. It looks like it's the same person, but maybe they just didn't plan well
yeah.
enough
I mean,
for that.
usually they do text first in almost all cases. So
Hmm.
you just leave blanks for the person who's doing diagrams to fill in later. But, if the text person didn't realize there was supposed to be a diagram there, then
Yeah,
oops.
then you do what you have to do. So here's just more samples. Ooh, right. And here's another one with these supplemental, I guess like supplemental pieces that you would fit together somehow. Because it's a very, in the examples that I saw, it's not like a thing that's a permanent, like held together. It is a thing where you would like take pieces on and off and add them depending on what it is you're trying to do. And so I would imagine that that's what this is. Like, here are some other little things that you can add to it to do something else that you might want to do. Let's see. And there's a little marginalia here, not a whole lot. Um, and I am not seeing, oh wait, no, I was saying there, I don't see page numbers, but I actually do up here fully. Oh, you don't see that. They're just little pencil marks. I think maybe only every 10 pages. Yeah.
Yeah, those are added by a librarian. What you would use to
Mhm.
keep the book in order at the time are these catchwords down at the bottom.
Are,
So every page has a word that is the same word at the top of the next page. So
yeah.
that's much more common than page numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. And it's typical for them to do the catchwords on every page, whereas
Hmm.
in Western manuscripts, we do have C catchwords, but usually they're just at the end of the quires. So it's like to keep the quires in order, whereas these are every page, which is an interesting kind of difference. Excuse me. Oh, here's some Arabic numerals, I think, maybe.
Those are
They look like,
letters.
oh, they're letters. I was going to say, they look like numbers to me. Okay. That's why you're here. So
Well,
everybody, they're
I
letters,
mean,
they're not numbers.
like whenever you're looking at one of these mathy sciencey books, the equations you do them with letters. Like the letters mean numbers sometimes, and they also
Right.
mean letters sometimes. And honestly, I don't understand how you do math like this, but
Yeah.
So you'll see just letters by themselves that are indicating something to do with math. So sorry.
So I'm just zooming in a little bit so we can see these diagrams, which are quite, they seem to be, especially this one over here, they're like really detailed. Um, like this was a person, both the original author and this and the, I guess, artist, the person who was like make drawing them was like a lot of a lot of work going into it, especially since they didn't, they didn't have access to the kinds of technology that we have. I love that they were able to do so much with what they knew and what they had available. Here's a little bit more. I wish I knew more about astronomy.
These are all labeled. They're labeled like the first, the third, the second, the fifth, the sixth, the fourth. I don't know why they're in that order, but
They're probably, yeah, and it's probably in reference to whatever is being described, in the text. Um, so here's another, it looks like supplemental piece, maybe.
and
Oh,
there's a
oh
missing
no.
diagram. Yeah.
Yeah, that's too bad. There's another little marginal note, and more marginal notes in a different hand. Yeah, a lot of people interacting with this. Some stains, it looks like maybe even fingerprints here. Let's see. So I want to move ahead because there's more after this. So although it is fun to look at the diagrams. Let's see if I can find a page number, um, or really a folio number. All right, here's 50, and skipping some pages because something that happens in the next section is there's actually there's some misbinding, and I haven't looked at it yet, so I'm really curious to see that. When I say misbinding, I mean the pages are a little out of order, and so I just want to see how that looks. So here's 60, 61. Oh, I like that. I don't know. I like that there's the dark spots there. 62.
Yeah, this whole second section seems different to me. Like the writing looks different. The pen is definitely different.
Oh.
The illustrations are a little bit different, although I think it's talking about the moon, so
Yeah, I think that's
um
what these little circles are the moon there. That's what that usually is. Do you think it's a different?
I
Oh,
don't
yes,
know.
no.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. I didn't notice when it changed. Is that is that the same? Because we have this lighter ink up to here, and then it gets darker. I'm
Yeah.
not
This
enough of
is
an, is this where it changes?
yeah.
Yeah. So this is pretty early. I didn't even notice. Thank you for pointing that out. Um, so this is just 30. Yeah, so this is like halfway through, about halfway through the first treatise, because we're already like almost to the end of it here. So there's some kind of change there, which isn't unusual to see, somebody else sort of take over. Let's see. Oh, I've lost count. But there's supposed to be okay, here's 66. So here we're at the end. of, and here's 67. So 67 verso apparently is an anonymous extract from a treatise dealing with the crab and drum astrolabe. So there were different kinds of, there's like the one astrolabe, which is the main astrolabe, and then there are other ones for other, for sort of figuring other things out. And then there's 68, so that was 67. So 68 recto, which I think is here, 68 recto verso through 70. So here's 70. This is a section of one. And then this is another part of the same treatise, but out of order. So these two leaves, supposedly, according to this thing I'm looking at, come before this. But, however, this is the middle of the choir, so I'm not sure how that works structurally. I don't know if that's right, even.
Also, the catchwords have disappeared, so
Yeah, so we can't.
you'd have to be
Maybe they
familiar with the
disappeared.
text.
Did they disappear with the second scribe, or were they? No, they were there. I don't know. There's something sort of funky happening here. But this is a treatise on a solar lunar gear mechanism to be inserted inside an astrolabe mother. So this is again, I said that there were different pieces that you could sort of put in. I'm trying to think of like a modern equivalent of a thing where you have a thing where you can like switch out parts to do different things. I'm sure there's a good one. I'm just not thinking of it.
Also, it looks like there's like a little bit of rubrication missing around here.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's a gap right there.
There's a gap there. Yeah.
And this again looks like a different copyist. I don't know. I feel like this book needs another look because there are two dates on it, but they're the same. And I really don't think this was all finished in one day. So
Yeah, no.
something is going on, and someone else
Yes.
should look at this book again.
Yeah. So Murray in the chat is suggesting food mixers, and yes, the KitchenAid food mixers have so many different attachments. So that's a good. I'm going to be like, the Astrolabe was the KitchenAid of the Middle Ages. That's not exactly right, but the same sort of concept. All right, we are almost running out of time, but I just want to show a little bit more. Oh no! Oh look, I noticed one earlier too. You see that? What's happened here is that the black ink is made with iron gall, and it eats through the paper sometimes if there's too much iron in it. So that's what's happened here. Lisa is suggesting sewing machine attachments. So that's another good one. All right. So we're almost to the end. So I'll just page through just really quickly, and then we'll say goodbye. So thanks everyone for coming. This was really fun. And Kelly, I'm glad that you saw, things that maybe you didn't see your first time through, and maybe taking another look at this would be a good idea, because you're definitely right that there's a change in scribe at that midpoint and maybe at that other point too. So thanks everyone. We'll see you next week, and I hope you have a great one. So take care, and we'll see you soon.